Hello everybody, welcome to this instruction video. In this video I'd like to show you part 9 of Ubuntu. Ubuntu is the Scheepjes Crochet Along 2018 designed by Deidre Ice from Look at What I Made. In part 9 we're going to be making this flower edge here. I'm also going to be making those flower petals, and we'll start by building a small framework that will continue in next week. I'll take you through all the rounds that make up part 9. Thank you for watching. I hope it's a useful video for you. Round 9 of the border. I'm currently in that chain 3 there with a slip stitch. I'm going to move the slip stitch to the next stitch and then make a slip stitch into the chain 2 corner space. I'm going to start the first corner. I'm going to make a chain 3. The first 2 chains counts as a half treble. So this is a half treble and a chain 1. Then to complete the corner I need one more half treble. So your corner is a half treble, chain 1 and a half treble. So move the stitch marker. On the straight edge, you're going to make a back post treble around every stitch, so that's going to be 129 in total. To yarn over around that first stitch from the back, work a treble, and you're going to do this on every stitch. So find a comfy spot in front of the TV and make this entire round. So back post treble on all 129 stitches, then you'll get to your next chain 2 corner space, and in there you make a new corner which is a half treble, chain 1 and a half treble, and then you work your next straight edge of 129 back post trebles. That will give you this nice edge here to match the edge you already have down here. You've gone all the way around and you've done your last back post treble in the last stitch. Close on the second chain of the chain 3, so closing on the chain 2 with a slip stitch, and then you can cut your yarn because we're going to use a new color in the next round. Round 10 of the border. For new color yarn on my hook, I've got contrast color 3 with a slip knot on my hook. You're going to start in any chain corner space, doesn't matter which one, so in any corner space, and we're going to start in that space with a standing double crochet. And the standing double crochet is, of course, insert your hook, pick up the yarn and complete the double crochet. And to make the rest of the corner, chain 2 followed by a double crochet. There we go. That is your corner, a double crochet, chain 2 and double crochet. I'm just going to move the stitch marker to my new corner. Just open it up, you see exactly where that little corner is. The straight edge. I'm going to start by skipping 2 stitches, and that first stitch that we're skipping is this one, and it's really hidden here and very small to see, so that's already the first stitch. Then you go to the second, that one you also skip. Then in the third stitch, that one there, you're going to start with in essence a treble 3 together. It's a treble bobble, chain 3 and a treble bobble. So I'm just going to yarn over. Skipping 2 stitches, come to the third, and this will be is a treble 3 together. So it's 2 and 3, so it's the same as a treble 3 together, but you're working it in 1 stitch. So that's the 3 treble bobble, chain 3, and then in the same stitch work another 3 treble bobble. That's 1, 2, and 3. Again, 4 loops on my hook, take them all off. Mega. We're now going to start a repeat unit that we're going to do 21 times, and that will bring you to the other side, to your next corner. The repeat unit starts by skipping 2 stitches. So skipping 1, 2 stitches, go to the next and work a double crochet. You see that really brings your trebles here nice and parallel. Then skipping another 2 stitches, go to the next and work the same as here. So a 3 treble cluster, chain 3, and a 3 treble cluster in that stitch. So 1, 2 skip, and the third work a 3 treble cluster in one stitch, which is the same as a treble 3 together. And take them all off, chain 3, and in the same stitch again, 3 trebles worked together. 2, 3, and then take them all off. That's your repeat, starting with the 2 stitches that you're skipping right up to here to this 3 treble, this last 3 treble bobble. I'm going to do this 21 times in total. I've just done once with you. I'll show you the repeat again, and then I'll make a jump in the video, because you're going to keep on repeating this until you're to your next corner. So the repeat once more. I'm going to skip 2 stitches and work a double crochet. Again, skip 2 stitches, and in the next stitch work treble, a 3 treble bobble, 2, 3, take them all off, chain 3, and then again another 3 treble bobble, 2, and 3, take them off. Now done the repeat 2 times. You're going to do 19 more, and that will bring you almost to your next corner. I'll see you again when you've done 20 or so of these repeats. I'm almost to the next corner here. You need to do the repeat once more, so I've done 20 repeats. Skip the next 2 stitches and work a double crochet. Then again, skip 2 stitches, and then we're going to work a 3 treble bobble, so that's a treble 3 together in the same stitch. Chain 3, and then in the same stitch again, treble 3 bobble, and 3. There you go. At this point you should have 2 stitches left. You're going to skip those 2 stitches, and then in the corner work a double crochet, chain 2, which is your new corner, so I'm just going to hook the stitch marker on that, and then work another double crochet in the chain space. And this corner is of course exactly the same as the corner we started with, so everything we've done you're going to repeat again. So skip the first 2 stitches, then work one of these flowers, actually a bit of a flower petal, isn't it? Then work that, skip 2 stitches, work the double crochet, and I'll go all the way around. When you get to your first double crochet of the first corner, that standing double crochet, close on that with a slip stitch, and then you can also cut your yarn, because in the next round we're using a new color. Round 11 of the border. On my hook I have contrast color 1 with a slip knot. So put contrast color 1 on your hook, and then we're going to start in any chain 2 corner space. You've got many of them, so you can choose any one, and you're going to start in there with a standing double crochet. So I'm going to choose this corner space, start with a standing double crochet in that space. Now it's important, I'm going to move the stitch marker, but even if you haven't been marking your corners like I have, you need to mark this stitch. So this single stitch, this double crochet here, that's your corner. So there's no chain 2 corners or anything. So you need to mark this stitch. And I've just got half the stitch now. So just go through the entire stitch. There we go. So just mark this double crochet stitch with a stitch marker, because this is your corner. So now that the corner is done, we're going to start the repeats on the first edge. What we're going to do is we're going to work 5 trebles in the chain 3 space here with chain 1s between the trebles, and we're going to do that on all these chains. And then here we've got the a double crochet. You're going to work a back post double crochet around that stitch. Here working the trebles. In that stitch, start with this is a space, start with a treble and a chain 1. So that was 1. Then another treble number 2 and chain. Treble number 3 and a chain. Treble number 4 and a chain, and then to finish it, treble number 5 in that same space. So you're making 5 trebles with a chain 1 in between, so that means you've got 4 chains and 5 trebles in that chain 3 space. Now we're going to start a small repeat unit, and we're going to do 21 times in total. Involves a back post double crochet around the double crochet, and here in the chain 3 another one of these little shells here, so or scallops with the 5 trebles and the chains in between. Now I'm just going to show you here. If you look here at this double crochet, you'll see that's the top of the stitch there, and if you work a front or a back post, you might want to do that. But that would not be correct, because you've still got a loop here down there, and you really need to get around and under that loop there, and also this loop here. So the back, we're going to work in back post stitches, but not just through the top, but the entire stitch like this. So from the back, be underneath there, and then on this side, so scooping that entire stitch. That's what we're going to be doing. I'm just going to pick up my yarn again. That means to work a back post double here, coming from the back. See, I'm going really underneath all of the loops, so not through that hole there, but really here, and the other side as well. Come out, grab your yarn, bring everything up, and then you can see you're really making that stitch snug, and work the back post double. In the chain space, again a scallop, so it's going to be 5 trebles, so that's 1 treble, chain 1, 2 treble, 2 trebles, chain 1. This is number 3, chain 1. This is number 4, chain 1. And then this is number 5. That's your repeat unit from the back post double, and then these 5 trebles with the chains in between. going to show the repeat once more. You're going to be doing this 21 times in total. I've just done once with you, so you need to do 20 more. Show you the repeat once more, and then I'll do a jump in the video. If I just move everything a bit, because it is considerably large at the moment. Next stitch, here's that double crochet. You need to work a back post double. So that means here, really also at the bottom of that loop, then here that side, grab your yarn, bring everything up. You can see how you're really making that stitch tight, and complete the double. Come to the chain space and work the trebles with the chains. So it's 1 chain, 2 chain, treble number 3, again treble number 3, chain, treble 4, chain, and last one treble 5. Now you can see that's the corner stitch. This was the beginning, and then I've done the repeat twice. Continue with your repeat, and I'll see you when you're at the equivalent of about when you've done that scallop there. Then I'll just see you for the last repeat and the next corner stitch. Almost to the next chain corner space. I've done the repeat 20 times. Need to do it one last time, 21st time. So on the next double here, I'm going to work a back post double. That's from the back, really getting underneath all of those loops, and this side. Then grab your yarn, pull everything a little tight, getting that stitch nice and snug, and complete the double. In the chain 3 space, again trebles. It's 1 treble and chain, 2 treble and chain, 3 and a chain, 4th treble and a chain, and that last stitch, of course, still another treble. Oh dear. There we go. Your next stitch you're going to work is going to be your corner. You're going to go to the chain 2 corner space, and in that stitch work a double. And this one stitch, this single stitch, that's your corner. So I'm going to move my stitch marker. If you've been marking your corners, you move your stitch marker. If you haven't been marking your corners, you're going to place a stitch marker here. It's really important that you do this in that one stitch to mark the corner. So this one stitch, that's the corner, and place a stitch marker in there. So you're going to have one in each of your corners. This corner is the same as the corner we started with. That means on this edge you're going to do exactly the same. In the chain 3 spaces you're going to work these little scallops, and around the these double crochets you're going to work a back post double crochet on all of those. Go all the way around. When you get to your first standing stitch, close with a slip stitch, and then you can cut your yarn because we're using a new color for the next round. Round 12 of the border. This round you're going to use contrast color 5. That's the color you need. And for this round we're going to be working in the shells, but only in the chain 1 spaces of these shells, of these scallops. So only in those chain 1 spaces. All other stitches you're going to ignore. So it also includes the marked corner stitches where you've got the stitch mark. You're going to ignore those stitches. So only in the chain 1 spaces. It's the only place where we're going to be working. This round is tedious, takes time, so find yourself a place on the couch that's comfy and work this round 1 stitch at a time. We're going to be working flower petals. That's what we're going to be doing. And they're going to bobble, so also don't worry about that. We're going to attach our yarn in the first chain space of this shell. I've got a corner marked here, so I'm going to go to the first chain space there after the corner. Attach your yarn to contrast color 5 with a slip stitch in that chain 1 space. And this is already really part of the flower, this slip stitch. Then chain 1 and a half treble in the same space. We move to the next chain space. Work a half treble, chain 1, a slip stitch in the same space. So that means you're coming down, chain 1, and a half treble in the same space. So now you're coming back up again. That's going to give you a little bit of dimension here on this flower petal. Go to the next chain space and we do the same as on here. So we're doing the same there. So that's a half treble, chain 1, a slip stitch, chain 1, and a half treble, all in the same space. We move to the last chain space. Now we're working a half petal. That will start with a half treble, chain 1, and we finish with a slip stitch. Oh, sorry about that. Shh. That is the flower petal completed. This flower petal you're going to repeat all the way around. So that's more than 100 times, something like 132 flower petals in total. So this we're going to repeat here and here and the next one and the next one. I'll show you the flower petal once more. So on the next shell, in that first space, begin with a slip stitch. So that means that all these stitches here in the middle, you're skipping those. And you'll notice you're kind of pulling these two flower petals a little bit together with that slip stitch. That's fine. Chain 1 and a half treble. Next space, half treble, chain 1, in the space work a slip stitch, chain 1 and a half treble in the same space. Move to the next chain space and we do the same, half treble, chain 1, slip stitch, chain 1, half treble. Move to the last chain space. That's half treble, chain 1, and a slip stitch. To open this up, now you've done 2 flower petals. You can see already how this is starting to bobble and to become a bit wonky. Don't worry about that, it'll be fine. So take your time. Now you're going to work the next shell. So here you're going to start again with a slip stitch, go all the way around here, finishing with a slip stitch, and move on to the next shell. And like I said, you're going to work 132 of these flowers. You'll notice when you get to a corner here, so for example, let's say this isn't here, come here, you work this last flower petal, then you're going to skip that corner and just go on to the next flower. So you're going to have it a bit like that. So this will fall away. You're not going to work in those corners. Very important. We'll do that later on. So go all the way around, working these flower petals on each and every shell, all the way around. And when you're finished, you'll have worked this one here, this last one. You'll have worked that slip stitch in this chain 1 space, and then come back to the space where we started and join here with the slip stitch, and that will then just connect your last two, your very last one to your very first one. So closing there with a slip stitch, and then you're done with round 12. So take your time working these shells one by one, and I'll see you for the next round. You can then cut your yarn, because in round 13 we'll be using the main color again. Round 13 of the border, have the main color on my hook, and we're going to start in any marked stitch. Remember, in round 11 you marked 6 stitches, your 6 corner stitches. That's where we're going to start, and this entire round you'll only be working around stitches from round 11. So we're starting in that marked stitch. Actually, I'm just going to pop this stitch marker forward, so it'll just make it easier to see. Most likely when you made those flower petals it popped back, so just bring it forward to see exactly where that stitch is. Around this stitch we're going to start with a standing double treble, a front post standing double treble. Put the yarn over twice and then hold on to that, and then around this stitch start with a front post, so around that marked stitch, and to complete the double treble, chain 1, and then we make another front post double treble around the same stitch. So just kind of stack them on top of one another. There you go. This is your new corner. You can remove the stitch markers, or actually only this one. The other ones you remove as you get to them. And you can, if you want, to mark this corner. As such, it's going to be very easy to recognize it, but you're welcome to do so. So I'm just going to mark my corners. Your corner is on top of your work. The straight edges we're now going to work, and they will be behind your work. So that's correct. You'll not be doing everything on the same side. So what we're going to do is we're going to work back post stitches. If you look at the flower petal, around stitch numbers, treble numbers 2, 3 and 4. So you've got 5 here. That first one and that last one will always be skipping, and then 2, 3 and 4 will get a stitch. It'll get a treble, a double and a treble, all back post. So what are we going to do? We're going to start with a chain 2. That's to just to bridge the gap to get to this flower petal. Yarn over, then going to skip this first one, and then around that second one work a back post treble, chain 1, then around the second you work a back post double, chain 1, then around the third work a back post treble again. So you've got treble, double, treble, back post. From the front you can see those little lines, and then on the back here you've got a bit of a framework that we'll be working in the next round. I'm going to start a small repeat with you, and that repeat you're going to do about 21 times until you're to the other side. Basically, I'm going to do chain 2. That's again to bridge over to the next flower. So we're going to skip these 3 stitches. That's a treble. I believe this was a back post double, and that first treble. You're going to skip those 3. That means again you're going to work on stitch number 2, 3 and 4 here. Those 3 in the middle. First one gets a back post double. A back post treble. That first one gets a treble, then double, and then the treble. If you find it might be easier if you just flip your work forward and then just grab that stitch from the back. That might just be easier for you. But if you feel not, then don't. That second one gets the double, chain 1, and then that third one gets the treble again. If you want to check if you worked on the right stitches, just flop your work back again and see, oh yes, I worked 2, 3 and 4, so the first one and that last one is still unworked. This little repeat, starting at the chain 2 until this back post treble, going to work that 20 more times, so 20 times in total, and that'll bring you just about to your next corner. I'll quickly show you again and then I'll do a jump in the video. Chain 2, then here on the second stitch work the back post treble, chain 1. I'm finding from the back just so much easier. Chain 1, and then the last one gets the treble again. There you go. Now you've done repeat number 2, but this one is of course very similar. So this, the chain 2 and then the back post treble, double treble, chain 1's in between, remember the chain 1's. Do this until you're almost to your next marked stitch. Remember, you'll have a stitch that's marked there on the other side, so continue there and then I'll just see you at that point. So I'm almost to the next corner. You see, here's my marked stitch. There's that marked stitch. Be wary that you actually see your stitches, that you don't kind of work back here and then miss the corner and then just continue. So be wary that you see these stitches. I'm just going to bring this stitch marker forward again so I can really easily see where it is. I need to work the repeat once more. So chain 2. Then here on the last flower petal, start with a back post treble. From the back for me is easier. Chain 1, and then the center one gets the double, chain 1, and the third one gets the treble again. I've completed the last repeat. Chain 2, 1, 2, and like I said, now it's important to work this corner, because you could accidentally continue and now here work that treble and then you would miss your corner. So that's something to be really wary of, that you will work this corner. I'm going to yarn over twice to work a front post double treble around that stitch, the marked stitch. 2, 3 times, chain 1, and then again twice over and work another front post double treble. There we go. You can move your stitch marker or remove them, whatever works for you, but anyway, this stitch marker can definitely go out there, and if you want to, you can place it back in your corner. And now you're at the same point we were where we started, so you're going to do a chain 2 and then work on this flower petal, chain 2 and then work that one, etc. Go all the way around, and when you get to your first stitch, that's going to be the standing double treble we started with, you close on that stitch there, the equivalent of this stitch, the very first one, you close on there with a slip stitch, and then leave your yarn attached, because the next round, and that will be next week of course, the round 14, we'll be using the same color, our main color, so you leave your yarn attached. And I can't emphasize enough, make sure you have 6 corners at the end of this round. And when you're all done, this is what your work looks like. You'll have 6 corners, you'll have beautiful flower petals, and then you're finished with part 9. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you next week for part 10.